Finding Hope in the Crucible, a companion guide for holding on when your life feels like it's burning away, by Seth Czerepak. Introduction. The dark that seems to have no dawn.
There are seasons in life that are so dark they seem permanent, not because the sun has stopped rising for everyone else, but because something in your life has gone so dark that morning no longer feels like a promise. The world keeps moving. People answer emails, cars pass outside, someone laughs in another room, bills come due, phones buzz. The ordinary machinery of life keeps grinding forward as if nothing sacred has been torn from you. But inside, something is burning. Maybe it is a relationship. Maybe it is your health. Maybe it is a dream you built your identity around. Maybe it is your family, your faith, your future, your sense of safety, or the version of yourself you thought you could keep being. Maybe you cannot even name what is burning yet. You only know that the life you had no longer holds you, and the life ahead of you has not yet revealed itself. This is the cruelest part of the crucible. Not merely that it hurts, but that it burns away the meanings you were using to survive. When people see you from the outside, they may try to encourage you. They may tell you to stay strong. They may tell you that everything happens for a reason. They may tell you that one day this will all make sense. Maybe they are right. But right now, being right is not the same as being helpful, because when you are still inside the fire, meaning feels like a shortcut, hope feels like denial. Advice feels like one more expectation you are too exhausted to respond to. This book begins there, not at the end of the story, not when you have found the lesson inside the pain, not after your testimony has been polished, not after the ashes have cooled, not after the wound has learned to speak in wise sentences. Here, in the night that seems to have no dawn, I know something about that night. I remember sitting across from my therapist after one of the most humiliating, heartbreaking seasons of my life. I had been betrayed by someone I loved. My finances were wrecked. My home had become unsafe. My heart felt shattered and my life looked like debris. Then my therapist asked me a question so simple I could not outthink it. Are you happy? I tried to prepare a clever answer. I tried to reach for the kind of explanation that would let me stay in control of the room. But something in me stopped. No, I said, and that honest word became a doorway. Not a doorway into instant healing. Not a doorway into a clean little lesson. A doorway into the truth that I could no longer keep living by the stories I had been using to explain my pain. Years later, I would face other fires. There was the season when I left a 6-figure job during a recession because something deeper in me knew I could no longer live by the rules of a world I did not belong to. 6 months later, I was broke. My bank account was negative. My refrigerator was almost empty. It took everything in me to get up in the morning and resist the urge to give up and go back to the life everyone else thought was safer. Then I remembered something my mother had said in a voicemail after I resigned. She said she had watched me swing from vine to vine like Spider-Man since the day I left home, and somehow I had always made it work. She quoted a line from a song. "The one I want, the one I will become, will catch me." I did not know it then, but those words would become part of my survival grammar. The one I will become will catch me. There were other nights, too. Nights when writing took me apart. Nights when I felt exiled from my own life. Nights when the world grew thin around the edges, when sleep became a negotiation, hunger became a rumor, and time felt like a series of dissolving boundaries. Nights when I did not feel hopeful, faithful, brave, or strong, and yet something remained. Not confidence, not certainty, not even peace at first. Something smaller and deeper. A witness, a spark beneath the ash. The part of me that could watch everything fall apart and still remain present enough to say, I am still here. That may be all you have right now. Not a plan, not an answer, not a breakthrough, just the small, stubborn, sacred fact that you are still here. This book is for that part of you. New subheader, The Fire You Did Not Choose. Some fires are chosen. You choose discipline. You choose sacrifice. You choose the difficult road towards something meaningful. You choose the pain of training, responsibility, repentance, growth, or devotion because some part of you can still see what the pain is serving, but some fires arrive without asking. They do not wait for your consent. They do not come when you feel spiritually prepared. They do not explain themselves before they begin. They enter your life like an invasion, and suddenly you are forced to live inside a reality you would never have selected. That is one reason pain can feel so disorienting. You are not only suffering, you are suffering inside a story you did not agree to enter. And because you did not choose it, you may feel ashamed that you are not handling it better. You may wonder why you are angry. You may wonder why your prayers feel thin. You may wonder why your mind keeps replaying the same scenes, searching for the detail that would make everything finally make sense. You may wonder why your body feels tired even when you have done nothing. You may wonder why ordinary tasks feel impossible. You may wonder why the advice that used to sound inspiring now sounds insulting. There is nothing strange about this. The Crucible changes the conditions under which a person can function. Fire does not ask metal to explain what is happening while it is glowing. It does not demand that what is being refined understand the forge before the forge has done its work. And if your life is burning right now, you may not be ready to call it refinement. That is okay. You do not have to decorate your pain with spiritual language before you have told the truth about what it cost you. Some things hurt because they matter. Some losses feel unbearable because something precious was really there. Some grief is not unbelief. It is love with nowhere to go. The fire you did not choose may have taken something from you that you still do not know how to release. A relationship, a role, a future, a body you trusted, a sense of innocence, a version of faith that felt simpler before the suffering began. This book will not ask you to pretend that loss is easy. It will not ask you to rush toward meaning as a way of avoiding grief. It will not tell you that the fire was good, but it will ask you to consider that the fire may not get the final word. Not today, maybe. Not in a way you can feel yet. But somewhere beneath the ash, something in you may still be alive. And that matters. New subheader. Why advice feels useless in the Crucible. Advice usually assumes that the person receiving it still has access to the part of themselves that can act on it. But in the Crucible, that access may be buried. When you are overwhelmed, betrayed, grieving, afraid, ashamed, exhausted, or spiritually disoriented, even good advice can feel like a demand. Someone tells you to pray more, journal, breathe, exercise, forgive, surrender, make a plan, change your mindset, count your blessings, or move on. Maybe some of those things will matter later. But when your life feels like it is burning away, advice can feel like being handed a map while you are still trapped under the wreckage. That does not mean you are resistant. It does not mean you are weak. It does not mean you do not want to heal. It means the part of you that makes meaning may be trying to survive before it can interpret. There is a difference between refusing wisdom and not yet being able to metabolize it. This book respects that difference. Before you need instruction, you need recognition. You need someone to say, yes, this is heavy. Yes, this would shake a person. Yes, it makes sense that you are tired. Yes, it makes sense that you do not know what to do next. Yes, it makes sense that the old answers do not feel large enough for the new wound. Recognition is not small. To be seen accurately in pain is one of the first mercies, because pain isolates. It tells you that no one understands the particular shape of what you are carrying. It tells you that your grief is too much, your fear is embarrassing, your anger is unacceptable, your confusion is proof that you are failing. But the crucible does not begin with your failure. It begins with fire, and fire makes survival costly. There are seasons when getting through the next hour is not laziness. It is endurance. There are seasons when not giving up is not passive. It is warfare. There are seasons when the most faithful sentence you can say is not, "I understand." It is, "I am still here." If that is all you have today, it counts. If your prayer is only a groan, it counts. If your courage is only not disappearing, it counts. If your hope is only the faint suspicion that the fire may not get the final word, it counts. And if you are in a moment where you do not trust yourself to stay safe, let this be the one direct thing this introduction says plainly. Reach for a living person. Call someone. Text someone. Go where another human being can see you. The night may tell you that you are alone, but the night is not authorized to make final claims about your life. You are not a problem to be solved. You are a person to be held. New subheader, this is not a manual, it is a companion. A manual assumes you are trying to operate a machine, but a life falling apart is not a machine. A wounded soul is not a broken appliance. A person in the fire does not need to be treated like a project. You are not a project. You are a person, and this book is not here to manage you. It is here to walk with you. There will be places in these pages where we name pain plainly. There will be places where we sift through ash. There will be places where we look at the ruins not to shame what broke, but to understand what the breaking revealed. That is the archaeological work of suffering. Not digging violently, not forcing meaning out of the ground before it is ready, not turning every broken thing into an instant lesson. Archaeology moves slowly. It brushes dust from what was buried. It honors fragments. It assumes that ruins are not meaningless simply because they are no longer whole. When your life collapses, you are not merely trying to rebuild. You are trying to understand what the collapse revealed. What was holding, what was only appearing to hold. What did you lose? What did the loss expose? What part of you is still there beneath the ash? These are not questions to answer quickly. In the beginning, they may be too much to answer at all. That is okay. The first work of the Crucible is not explanation. The first work is honesty. This hurts. This is not what I wanted. I do not know who I am inside this yet. I do not know what remains. Those sentences may not sound like hope. But sometimes truth is the first form hope takes when hope is too tired to shine. For me, the fire has taken many forms: heartbreak, humiliation, financial collapse, spiritual disorientation, lonely rooms, long nights, the death of old identities I once thought I needed in order to survive. But over time, I began to understand something I could not have understood at the beginning. The self who enters the fire is not always the self who leaves it, and sometimes the old self deserves more compassion than contempt. That old self may have made mistakes. Mine did. He may have believed lies. Mine did. He may have stayed too long, trusted too blindly, fought too hard for the wrong things, or confused love with loyalty to what was destroying him. But he also endured. He carried the torch through darkness I did not yet know how to survive. He sat through nights that seemed to have no dawn. He kept enough of the flame alive for another version of me to inherit it. This is where grief begins to change its face. The old self is not only the one who failed, sometimes he is the one who carried you to the border, the one who suffered long enough to hand you a future he would never see, the one whose memory no longer asks only for regret, but for gratitude. You may not be ready for that yet. You may still be angry at the version of you who missed the signs, stayed too long, broke down, gave up, came apart, or could not become stronger faster. But maybe as we walk through this book together, you will begin to see that self differently. Maybe that self was not your enemy. Maybe that self was carrying you as far as they could. Maybe that self deserves to be blessed before being released. And maybe the fire that feels like it is ending you is also, in ways you cannot yet name, preparing you to carry something you could not have carried before. Not because the pain was good, not because what happened was okay, not because every loss should be decorated until it stops sounding like loss, but because there are forms of compassion, discernment, tenderness, strength, and authority that can only be entrusted to someone who has touched the fire and remained. For now you do not have to become anything. You do not have to explain the fire. You do not have to know what will be rebuilt. You do not have to call this chapter beautiful. You only have to keep enough of yourself present to let the next honest sentence be true. Maybe that sentence is, I am afraid. Maybe it is, I am angry. Maybe it is, I miss what was taken. Maybe it is, I do not know how to keep going. Maybe it is, God, if you are here, I need you to meet me in the part of this I cannot survive by pretending. Whatever the sentence is, begin there. The night may seem to have no dawn, but if you are still here, even barely, then something in you has not gone out. This book is for that ember, not the blaze, not the performance of faith, not the polished version of survival. The ember, the small, stubborn, sacred thing in you that remains warm beneath the ash. We will begin here.
End of the introduction of Finding Hope in the Crucible by Seth Czerepak.